Let me just close the pool and share the results with you. So let's start. Thank you for joining the webinar again. My name is Shadi. I'm from Morocco and I work as a market analyst at Amini. Joining me today is Corey, who is our solution architect, and Jackie, who is our machine learning engineer. Each of them brings a unique perspective to our discussion, from a technical expertise toward the applications at Amini Lite. And I'm excited to have you guys here. Thank you for joining. Um, Also, I'd like to note that we are structuring this session as a conversation. We therefore encourage you to stay engaged throughout the webinar, and please send us any questions that you might have, and then we can answer those later in our Q&A session. So today I can see in the pool that most people were actually in the agriculture sector, technology, climate, environmental science. You guys are mostly attending this webinar to learn more about Amini Lite, specifically on time series analysis and more features. And this is exactly why we are here. So thank you for answering the poll. So today we'll start with a walkthrough of Amini Lite's key features, and then we'll move on to a live demo where we'll show you how to use the platform. And then we'll move to displaying some use cases, and finally wrap up the webinar with Q&A sessions from your side. Um, so we can get started. One of the core challenges that we are addressing at Amini Lite is data scarcity, specifically in the continent, the African continent, and the global south. Access to relevant data has been limited, making it hard for businesses, individuals to make informed decisions that impact their communities and also the livelihoods. Think about farmers. Think about your community right now and how informed decisions, data-driven decisions can actually make a greater impact than now. So we've heard from so many of you about the struggles accessing reliable environmental data specifically, and Amini Lite is one of our key solutions to bridge this gap. So today we'll walk you through how this tool provides you valuable insights right at your fingerprints, so that you can actually start running your own analysis. So for those who are new to Amini Lite, our platform is all about enabling access to geospatial data and supporting you with indices that you need to run your own analysis in the easiest and simplest manner. And today, Corey will run us through all of the indices that we have available and how they can support you in different use cases. So our features do include time series analysis, which is a feature that we just launched last week. And for example, this feature can help you track changes over time, identify critical patterns for your study or research. So besides these features and the tools that we have at Amini Lite, we also have um, a growing network of community, which is mainly in our community channels, Slack and Discord. And this network includes people across the continents from different countries. We have Kenya, we have Nigeria, we have Uganda, we have Morocco, Tunisia, and we believe that building a platform from the ground up can serve your needs, cannot be built without involving you in this process, which is why we want to bring you with us in this journey and grow this network that shares the same mission and objectives as our team at Amini. So within the community, as we involve you in this process, you will be able to share the challenges that you encounter using other platforms, as well as feedback, so that we can design the best version of Amini Lite. So one way of interacting with us is through organizing this webinar, which is our first. And other ways can also include joining our Slack and Discord channels. You can also send us an email at community@amini.ai, where we usually send you newsletters and also an update every time we deploy a new feature. So now we are going to move to the live demo. So I will give the floor to Corey for that.
Thanks, Chadi, for that introduction. As introduced earlier, my name is Stephen Korir, and I'm the solutions architect at Amini. So I want us to jump right into Amini Lite page. Uh, Shadi, would you share the screen to that has the QR code so that our attendees can be able to scan?
Yeah. Okay. So this is it.
Yes.
So yeah.
So you can be able to scan these QR codes, and then you'll be able to get access to some of these resources. So the first one is if you want to go to, let me share, before I share my screen, if you want to go to Amini Lite, you can scan that QR code, then you'll be able to go straight to Amini Lite page. Um, then we have some webinar resources. These webinar resources have, the vouchers to be used to access the platform. We also have some the dataset format, the CSV file. Then we have some sample notebook that we'll be using to show how to use the Amini Lite endpoint. So you can scan those two uh, QR codes, then get hold of these code that you're seeing that we'll be using to get free credits to use Amini Lite.
Okay. So let's give 1 minute, and then you can go ahead and dive deep
Okay.
into Amini Lite. So, like Corey mentioned, we would like to provide you with a practical session rather than just run you through what you can do with Amini Lite and actually show you, instead of showing you from our own screens, we would rather just give you access to the platform and also to free credits. And also, we have provided you with a sample data, but you can also bring your own data and run the analysis as Corey runs this demo. And we just think that this is more practical so that you actually have a first hand of the platform and learn how to run your own analysis. So you can sign up to the platform using the first QR code. It's very simple. And then from there, you can redeem the voucher using this code so that you can get free credits. And then join, as you get free credits, you can always go back to the webinar resources, which includes the sample notebook that Corey mentioned. And we'll also drop more resources by the end of um, the webinar. Actually, you will also find more in the documents. So I
Thanks.
think you can move forward,
Yeah,
Corey.
thanks a lot, Shadi, for that clarification. Yeah, so I think I can now share my screen, be able to
Yeah.
just dive directly into the demo, and you can follow up with me. Um, just a minute. Can be able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So if you had already scanned the QR code, then it will take you directly to Amini Lite, the one that had been written Amini Lite. But if you haven't, then what you can just do, just type Amini Lite, oh, sorry, Amini Lite. Then you'll be able to see a number of links. then go to the one that has been written that has light.amini.ai. So that is using that link here, then you will be able to get right to Amini Lite platform. So for me, I'm already logged in, but let me log out. So if you haven't, if this is your first time interacting with Amini Lights, then you will need to have an account. Then you have to register. So you use this to register the account. You can either use your Gmail account or whichever account that you have. And then after that, you will be able now to log in. So let me just log in. Yes. So when I log in, this is the welcome page that you will see. This is the landing page that you'll see. You're seeing the tabs there. We have the welcome API keys, data download, and all that. Then you're seeing this dark model that you're seeing here that has been written purchase your credit. So before you continue, you just have to make sure that you have credits that you use to do your analysis and download the data. So when you see from my statistics or my credits usage, you see that the total amount of credits that I have already used in this platform is $15. And I've already downloaded a number of some data sets and have around $3 left. Yes, so for you, we'll be using this voucher, but before we do the redeem voucher, because all of you, the first 50, I think we're around, I think 30 at the moment. So you'll just use the redeem voucher. You'll just click here and then use that code that we had already shown. You remember that code? Use that code so that you can be able to redeem, I think around $2 that you will use to play around with the platform. So you put in the code here, then you click confirm, then your account will be populated with
I think we lost
$2.
Corey for 1 minute. Um,
Yes, can you hear me?
so I will share the link that Corey was mentioning, where you can find the vouchers and also
Hello, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
Did you lose me for some time?
Yes, I think the internet went down. Sorry, guys. So I'm actually going to share the document, the link here as people are joining us. So please feel free to go to this link. You'll find the webinar resources document with the vouchers and also the CSV file that you can use as.
Yes, so I think I'll continue. So once you get to that link, then you'll be able to see the code that we talked about. So when you click here, then you'll be able to see this model that has the redeem voucher title. Then you will paste in the code here. Then your account will be populated by $2. So you use that $2 to be able to play around with the system. So um, the normal way that we do purchase credits is you just click on this button here, purchase credits. Then you put the amount that you want to purchase. Let's say that you want to purchase $10. I put in the $10, then you confirm purchase. So when you click here, this is the model that will show up. This is the model that will show up. Then you will fill in with your credentials, with your card credentials. Then you'll confirm purchase. So this is ideally the way you're supposed to be purchasing credits. So I'll not purchase the one because I have some credits that I'll be using. So I'll close that. So I hope that you've redeemed your vouchers. Um, yes, so I think now we can continue from there. So we are now into the platform and we want to use the platform. Let's say, for example, personally, I'm a farmer and I want to just try and understand how my farm back at home is performing. So how do I do this, right? So The first thing that you need to do is, of course, to be able to use to be able to download the data, whether using this front end or using the notebook or using the API endpoint, you need to have the API key. So I'll click here on the API keys. I have some two API keys. These are not the API keys. Yeah, so I have some two API keys. So for you to be able to generate your API key, so you click here to generate new API key. When you click at that here, then you'll be able to name your API key. It depends on which name you'd want to name your API key. Then you'll click generate. After that, you'll be able to get your API key. So you will copy your API key, store it in a secure place where you'll be able to retrieve and use it, you know, in a notebook or whichever, or even in this platform for you to be able to get the data. So after that, now I now want to get the data for my farm somewhere. So so we have two ways in which we can be able to get data or analyze data and be able to download the data. So the first method or the first way is you will upload a geopolygon file. Or you will draw your polygon. So we'll give you an interface where you will be able now to draw. If you know the place, if you know your farm if you know where your farm is and everything, then you can be able to use draw your polygon tool to be able to draw the boundaries of your farm or whatever you want to analyze. Yes, so we'll start with the first one, that is uploading a geopolygon file. So when I click here, I'll be shown just a minute. Let me increase. Yeah. When you click there, this is where now you'll be able to drag in your geopolygon file. And the geopolygon file that we are talking about here should be in a CSV format. I hope you understand the WKT CSV format, that is well-known text. And in that CSV, there are three mandatory columns that should be there. The first one is polygon. We have the start date. The way it has just been written here: start date, start underscore date, end underscore date, and the polygon, which is supposed to be in a polygon or a multi-polygon. So after you do that, the date should also be in this format. That is the year, the 4 digits for the year, 2 for month, and 2 for day, separated by a hyphen. So you can drag it in here, or you can just click here to choose the file from your folder. So these are two farms that I know somewhere. You can be able to see the format: polygon, start date, end date, and it's supposed to be in a WKT format. You see the multi-polygon. Then when you reach here, you have the date, the start date, and the end date for the two farms. So after this, what do? You click next. When you click next, you see it has skipped the time frame because we had already indicated the time frame in the CSV. Now we are in the data sets. Now it depends which kind of data sets which kind of indices do you want to have or to compute. We have the NDVI. You understand what NDVI? NDVI is normalized difference vegetation index. Then we have the info tab here. This is the info tab here. When you click here, then you'll be able to get a summary of what that index is all about, or what that vegetation index is all about. So for this, you're being told NDVI. It's normalized difference vegetation index. It's widely used vegetation index. Being given the formula. These are the bands in the electromagnetic spectrum that you use in the band math to be able to get the index. And you also told the common users for this index. So the same applies to all these other indices. So we have the EVI that is enhanced. It's an enhanced version of the normal NDVI. And WI, this is for water. NDMI, this is for moisture. We have for soil adjusted vegetation index and survey modified, all of them. All these indices that we do have at the moment. Sorry for that. Then we have the export format. You can be able to export this data either in CSV or JSON formats. Then we have the statistical operations on the data. Then we have the raw or the the minimum and maximum are coming soon. So the raw means we want to get these indices over a period of time. This is time series. For row, it means that you will get the data for each timestamp. I mean, for each time that you're having imagery over that specific place. For the mean, it means that you're aggregating this data. If you have a time frame of 2 months, then you're squeezing all that data, you're aggregating it, and you're getting the mean for the whole period. Yes. So for me, I just want to have a look at from the time that I planted these two farms to now. How are they looking like? So I'll have raw disaggregated, and I'll transport. I'll be able to um, export it as CSV. So I'm going to take the NDVI, and I'm going to also take the NDMI. That is the moisture index. Just trying to understand how the two. That is the crop water stress, and that is the crop health. Yeah. So after that, I just click next. When I click next, being told the dataset preview. How does this look like? The file size is 25 kilo, sales amount 4, estimated cost is 0.09. That's around 13 shillings, 13 Kenyan shillings. Yeah, so that is the estimated cost. Then after that, what do? I click next, and we have the computation is now ongoing, and we have a job ID. Now this is the job. This is the job ID. I'll be able to show you how the job ID history looks like. So you click check status, and when you click check status, you are now able to see the status of the status of your of the job, how everything is progressing. So right now, what is happening at the moment? Whatever is happening at the moment is we have a compute engine in the background. We have a compute engine. This computing engine is getting this polygon information that we've already supplied it. Then we are having satellite imagery. So it's trying to extract this data, right? Trying to extract this data, trying to do what is called zonal statistics, be able to aggregate pixel data, that is NDVI data and NDMI data, and getting a mean of it. So that is what is happening at the moment, using the compute engine and also using what is called a mini geo package. So we've created a geo package called a mini geo package that is able to do all these operations, even calculating these indices and doing cloud masking and under the hood. So that is what the geo package and the compute engine is doing in the background. So we now have the data. We now have the data. Can be able to see we are having the data for the NDVI and NDMI for all this time, right? So we're done, I think, from the 1st of March 2024, I remember, up to around 2nd of September 2024. So you see that we having other dates, other timestamps that we do not have data. So most probably, not even most probably, this is the time that we had issues with the satellite imagery in terms of clouds, because we are doing cloud masking. So we are not able to get the data for that specific period or that specific time. So this is how we are using the first method. So I want just to take you to the second method or the second way of accessing this data. So we talked about uploading a GeoPolygon file. Now we're going to how you would want to draw a GeoPolygon. So you'll be able to change the base map to satellite street so that I can be able to see areas. Let me go to a place that I know, a place where I come from. Yes, a place called Singore. This Singore, I can be able to navigate to a farm that I know. This farm again, what are we trying to look at? We're just trying to look at since the time that we planted up to the moment, what is happening in that farm. So we are going to use the polygon drawing tool, and you can be able to see it here. Student P. Then we're going to draw. We're going to draw a polygon in that farm. After drawing a polygon in that farm, we just click next. Then we select a time frame. Now, I want from April 1st. That is the time. Also, I'll choose the start date. So you can be able to see the current selection here. I've chosen the start date to be the 1st of um, April 2024. What about the end date? The end date when is today? Today is 15. So I want to choose from 1st of April to now, what is happening in the farm. So I'll click next. And when I click next, it will take me back to the initial process. So I've already chosen the area of interest. We now have the time frame, the data set. So the same way, I'll just choose that one and that one. Then I click next. Then it will give me the data set preview. Then I'll just continue with the same way that I did to be able to get my data, so that I can be able to download my data or email the data to my email account. Yes. So um, I think at this time, I would want to jump again into now the second way of accessing data. If you have questions about the process and everything, you can just post it in the chat. Then we will be able to answer those questions in the Q&A section as we are almost ending the webinar. Yeah. So I just now want to take you to a second way of accessing the data using the API endpoint. So just a minute. You want to see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. So in this screen, what you're seeing is just a very small notebook, a very short notebook that will show you how you will be in a position to use the API endpoint to be able to get the data and now use that data for whichever use case that you want to use that data for. So I have my farms, the polygons in this CSV as a WKT format. Then I have my key, my API key in corridor.json. So what I'll just do is I'll install request if you haven't installed, then I'll import these packages here. These packages are those that I'll be using here. So I'll click that to be able to load in my API key. So this is the API endpoint to be able to get the data. I can be able to see it here. This notebook is in the webinar resources. The headers together with the API key, the file name, which is farms.csv. Then I'll be able now to create what is called a job. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to create a job ID. Then the job ID is the one that I'll use to download the data. Then I'll now use the data for analysis. So when I click here, you'll be able to see success message job has been created successful. Then the cost and the ID. So this is the ID that I've now used to do what? I'll use now to download the data. So when I get here, I'll put in the URL together with the job ID as the API endpoint. I'll be able to use also the API key to be able to get the data. So when I run this cell, now we are getting the data. The same way I told you earlier, whatever is happening at the moment is we have the compute engine and the minutes of package. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get data between that time, satellite data, trying to clip in the satellite data, create the NDVI index and all that. So that is being done under the hood. So as that is, before we get the data there, I think I'll just go back to the um, front end to be able to show you something small as you're waiting for the data to come back. Able to see my screen, right? Study.
Yep.
Okay. Let me
Awesome.
continue. Now, yeah. So when we're going on in the front end, we're able to see that we had data download, then we have the docs. The docs is where the documentation for Amini Lite is. So in these docs, you'll just click visit documentation. Then when you visit the documentation, you'll be able to see the documentation is here. See, this is what you're able to see in this documentation. Now, this is where everything about Amini Lite is. How do I purchase credits? How do I download the data? How do I do what and what? All that is in here. How do I use the API? You know, how do even the API reference and everything. So it has everything that you would want to know or to understand. Maybe there's some questions that you have and you're not very sure how to approach some of them. You can come to these documentation page. Then in this documentation page, now this is where you're able to get most of your answers. So visit this documentation page and people get to learn more about Amini Lite. Yes. So let me take you back. Let me take you back now to the notebook. I think we are now done. Yes, we are now done. It was processing. Now we have the data is available. This is the data. When you click on when you run this call for the response, because that is how it looks like, this is the data that you're having. So you can manipulate this data in whichever way that you want to manipulate this data. So for me, for example, I was looking at a farm, right? I was looking at a farm and this is how it looks like. From the 1st to September, this is the EVI, this is the triple CI, this is the NDVI. Triple CI is for the chronology and all that. So this is how it looks like. But of course, we have some gaps. This is attributed to clouds and all that. For me, what I would want to do with this, I would want to interpolate it. We have a lot of interpolation techniques. We have a lot of smoothing techniques. So it depends on the preference. It depends on your preference. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with this data? For me, I was going to a farm, just trying to look at how the farm is performing. I will have, what is called baseline and threshold data so that I'll be able to know at this time, my NDVI value should be at this point. So if it goes above that or it comes below that, what does it mean? So combining this data with local context and local knowledge is very key so that I can be able to show you, it can be able to give you insights. So when I run this, sorry about that. When I run this, now this is the graph. It is a visualization of the data that I've just downloaded from Amini Lite. And what does it show? From the time that I planted up to the time that I think it was tasseling or flowering, then it starts going down. And this is the EVI values, and we have the NDVI values. If you go and read about the EVI and NDVI, you understand that NDVI has some issues to do with saturation when it reaches the peak. But EVI corrects, that is why it's called enhanced. It corrects for that saturation. That is why you see, as we started the EVI and the NDVI were almost the same, but it reached a point where the canopy started increasing, then there was a diversion between the two indices, which are supposed to measure the same kind of phenomenon. Yeah, so this is how it looks. This is how you're able to get access your data using the API, Amini Lite API endpoint, and this is how you might be using your data to do a bit of analysis and to get some insights about the use cases that you're using. So after there, thank you so much. I think I'll give it back to Chadi or Jackie to be able to continue in the other part. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. I don't know if Chadi, do I just go ahead or? Okay. So I will share my screen. So give me 1 second. Mm. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Corey. So Corey has just walked us through how you can be able to get data from the Amini Lite platform. But the next question would be, so once you have this data, what can you be able to do with the indices that you get from Amini Lite platform? So we understand like agriculture is probably one of the biggest economic activity in the continent. And one of the biggest use case when it comes to remote sensing data is to do crop monitoring. And that's what today's use case will take us through. So I have a data set that was downloaded from the Aminilite platform. So this is data for a farm from Eldoret, which is a maize farm. And what we are going to do is walk through how, from this data, how do you move to building a simple application on top of it. And the application that we have today is we'll try to monitor this farm with the NDVI data that we have within a growing season. So that is between the planting season and the harvesting season. With the NDVI data, are we able to tell what's happening in the farm? And with the thresholds that we have, in case the NDVI value goes above or below, we should be able to maybe detect that. So the first thing that I need to do is just install all the libraries that I need. So I will use pandas because pandas is definitely one of the biggest libraries to go to when you want to manipulate data. And then I will just load in my data, which is a CSV file. So Corey had showed you that you can either use the API or you can use the front end. So this data was generated from the front end, but the process would be the same even with the data that you generate from the API. So once you get your JSON outputs, you can pass that probably into a data frame or into a dictionary and feed it into your pipeline. So this is a simple refresher on what maybe NDBI was about in case you might have forgotten, but it is a proxy that is really being used to detect healthy vegetation. So the values range from between -1 to 1, where higher values indicate healthy vegetation, and then lower values indicate either no vegetation at all when they get to 0, and moderate values indicate moderate healthy vegetation. So my data set has 2 data points, which I'll talk about as we proceed. I have both NDVI and GNDVI. You also have your date because this is time series data. So you are able to get data points for each time step when the data was available. So with time series data, you can be able to do a lot of use cases. People in machine learning can be able to build time series based models. With time series information, you can be able to track maybe farms within different time periods, which is useful in trying to detect changes that happens within like a specific time period. One thing that maybe I haven't mentioned is with Amini Lite, you can get historical data for any region of interest that you have. So you can go back in time as much as you want. But for this demo, I will just be using 2 years, but really you can go back up to maybe 10 years, all the way to 20 years. So once I have my data, so this data has some gaps due to cloud masking. So one of the things that we need to do is to fill these none values. And then because this is time series data, and for you to be able to understand the trends and the patterns in time series data, sometimes you need to do some smoothing depending on the data. So I will be doing these 2 pre-processing steps in this data. So one is filling these gaps with interpolation, and then I will be smoothing this data. So I had pre-run the notebook, so I will just go to the cell outputs. And the visualization here is really the trends for NDVI for the last 2 years. So this is the time period for the data that I have generated. So for my farm, I understand how the growing season is like for this farm. So I kind of have that context, but sometimes you really might not be having the context about the crops that are growing in that farm. Probably when was the planting season, and when was the harvesting season, probably when was this land being tilled. But the whole point of having time series data is to be able to kind of derive that information from the data you have. So you should be able to get like maybe like historical data, 3 years data, 4 years data, 5 years data. And with that data, you should be able to kind of understand and derive what is the data looking like? What are the different cycles happening in this data? If it is farm, from NDVI data that I have, what can I tell from the NDVI about the growing season of this farm or of this crops? So from my data, you can kind of see, let me call it 2 cycles. So this is 2 cycles from around April all the way to, so we have a peak around August all the way to November, and then that is in 2023. And then in 2024, we also have almost a similar cycle starting from April. That is when you have the lowest NDBI that is steadily increasing to a peak around September, and then you have NDBI value start to decrease in maybe October, November. That is approximately 6 months. And because this was a maize farm, so this is like the long growing season, because maize can take up to 6 months from the growing date all the way to the harvesting. So because I have this information, and then I can be able to monitor this farm during the growing season. So if you have a farm probably somewhere maybe away from you, or you just have a farm and you want to get the maximum productivity from this farm, so you want to be able to monitor whatever happens after your crops have started growing, for example, because if a drought was to happen and those plants were to wither, then that means you would definitely get low yield at the end of the day. Or if you have a pest or a disease that attacks these crops in the farm, this would also mean low yields at the end of the season. So that's why it would be important to monitor these farms between the season and detect whenever there is probably some stress on the crops. So what we'll be doing is monitoring between the seasons. So I will take my season from July all the way to December. So this is what I am using as my season. So that is after growing all the way to harvesting. So I just want to monitor with NDVI what is happening. So from this data, you can tell from July all the way to around October. So you have NDVI values steadily increasing up to a peak in around August. Probably this was the flowering season. And then after you have NDVI values going below, so that means probably these crops had reached the maturity age and they were starting to try getting ready for harvesting. So I would want to, and all the NDVI values are above 0.35. So that is the average NDVI maybe within the season. So that is an assumption that I'm making from my data. And I want to be able to set this as a threshold. So within the season, the NDVI is always above 0.35. So that means if you have NDVI values below this threshold, that means probably these crops in the farm are experiencing some kind of stress. So this is how a simple crop monitoring application would look like. So once you have the data and you're able to kind of derive the thresholds from your data, so you'd be able to measure values below the threshold if you want to kind of catch the periods when this farms are undergoing any kind of stress. But if you also wanted to understand maybe when is the flowering period for this month, then you would also want to be able to get the data when this NDVI values maybe go above a specific threshold that you want to measure. But for this, we'll go with values below the threshold and be able to kind of monitor whenever we have values going below the threshold during the season. So I want to be able to see that. So this is just a plot for the data in two different tiers. This would just help to really understand what a year cycle looks like. And yeah. So there are different ways you can really monitor. So this is what I call the thresholding method, because you understand your data and then you derive thresholds based on what the data tells you. But if someone probably is maybe a data scientist or machine learning engineer, they would opt to probably go with ML-based methods, which I believe we'll discuss in coming webinars how you can do that. So today we'll go with the thresholding method, and what we're going to do is just monitor drops below the threshold during the season, which I will say indicates crop stress for that specific plant. So I decided to just compute the mean NDVI for this specific farm. So this NDVI smooth was a new column that was built after smoothing has been done. And then finding the mean. So the mean value was 0.30. So that means within the season, all the NDVI values are above or approximately 0.30. So that means anytime values go below this would probably mean there is some type of crop stress happening in that farm. So I have a function here that would really monitor this farm's data with a threshold set and with a specific window. So what the window means is, so you have a farm and it's in the month of June. So month of June, and you have a maize farm with really healthy crops. So these are green leaves. And then when it comes to maybe 26th of June, and you have NDVI values going below 0.1, 0.1 means very unhealthy vegetation because that is really low, or let me say 0.2. Yes. So, and then on the 27th, you have a value of NDVI going above 0.5. So you don't want to be having a scenario where you have like a false positive. This can be just due to maybe is an anomaly. So you want to have like a window. So this window is a consecutive time period that you want to measure this low NDVI values for. So if my threshold is 0.30, I want to be able to measure NDVI values that are going below this threshold for 3 time steps. So that means if I have my NDVI value in the month of June going below 0.30, it's approximately 0.26. And then the next time step, it's 0.25. The next time step is 0.10. Then this window really tries to pass a message better than just using a specific day or just using one single day. So that's what the window means. So if you were using the API, for example, and you want to build like a real-time monitoring application, and then you'd be streaming in these values, or rather fetching these values after every single day. And then once you have this data, you pass it in through your thresholding function. If that specific day has a NDVI that is lower than your threshold, and then this would be flagged. If this goes on for up to 3 times that, then it would mean that there is a problem in your farm and you probably need to take this into account. So this can vary depending on the crops, because different crops definitely have different sensitivities. So if your crop really has a high sensitivity, then you have the flexibility to set this window based on how it is. So it can be longer, it can be shorter, just depending on your use case. Okay. So for my data, for my data, two scenarios were flagged, and that is in December, and yeah, so that is in December. So if I was a farmer and I probably had subscribed probably to like an application that lets me monitor my farm from wherever, and I get this message telling me that my farm has a indication of unhealthy crops during the specific time period, this would prompt me to probably go to the farm and check maybe it was drought or it's some pest and diseases causing some stress to these farms. And you can see from the data, really. So you can see the NDVI values were definitely reducing during the month of December. But if you have the context of maybe when the harvesting season was, so you would also want to incorporate that information into your application so you don't flag dates that are really harvesting as unhealthy, but instead you flag really right information. So that was it about the monitoring. So this is really let me say, a simple workflow, really using thresholding. So this was just meant to show you what you can do with the data after. So a different person might decide to build an app on top of that and a completely different use case, which is okay. But you just want to understand. So once you have the data and once you understand it, so how do you use it to derive value from it? Because if you have data and there's no value you're getting from the data, then it's as good as nothing, yeah? So that's how you can build a simple monitoring application, but then sometimes you might use more than one index. For example, Corey mentioned that NDVI has a cone where it can get up to a saturation point and you might not be able to derive more information from it. So you might opt to also include other indices for your application. And that's why I also downloaded the gray normalized difference index, though this is always used in regions with like really high canopy densities. But plotting it with my NDVI data, and you can tell from the data pattern or like from the data trend that they really try to portray similar information. So sometimes you might get an index that will tell you if your NDVI was low, and you have a different index that can give you a further step, or rather a next reason as to why that NDVI value was low, then it's good to combine more than just one index. But for this demo, we'll just use that one index, which was NDVI, because you can tell from the data we're really getting almost similar results from the same. Yeah. So that was it about the crop monitoring application. So this was meant to show you the different data processing steps you can do and what type of monitoring you can do based on the data that you have. But we have more use cases than just crop monitoring. So Amini Lite actually gives you statistical data information. And with this, you can be able to also kind of do forest monitoring degradation. So what this means is not trying to map each pixel and map probably the change of this forest over time, but you can get like a general overview of what has been happening in forest, because forest definitely is dense canopy with really green vegetation. And with NDVI, you can be able to generate historical NDVI data for this specific forest. And once you are able to understand what the pattern looks like, so whenever you have values that are straying away from this pattern, then this could probably mean a signal that probably this vegetation or this forest isn't healthy, or there is maybe it's, it was burnt down, or there was some cutting down of trees in specific parts of the forest, which also contribute to the reduction of these NDVI values. So these two were just starter use cases on what you can do with the Amini Lite data. But the use cases are a lot, and we are looking forward to see all the applications that you can build with Amini Lite's data. So I think I will stop there and hand it back to Chadi.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Now I think we are going to move to the Q&A session. I think we are over time, a little bit over time, but I'm going to slot in maybe 5 minutes. Um, just a chance for anyone who has a question. Please raise your hand, and then we can give you the chance to ask a question. So we have a question from Daisy. Can the link for the voucher be reshared? So for the link and for the vouchers, I think it's available for up to 50 people. You can always attempt to redeem the vouchers as long as it didn't hit the 50 people mark. I think it's still going to be available even if you want to share it with your friends who didn't attend the webinar. So the short answer is yes. Just make sure that you redeem it before someone else actually takes the spot. Okay, so maybe anyone has any more questions about the platform, the use cases, um, please drop it in the chat or raise your hand, and then we can give you a chance to answer. So what there's a question from Ria LTD asking what are the use cases for the Amini Lite? Maybe Corey or Jackie can answer this question, but I would rather ask you, Ria, what are some of the use cases that you have in mind that you would want to apply on Amini Lite? And maybe we can answer you whether if it's possible or not. But Corey, Jackie, would you like to share? Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, sure thing. For the Amini platform, we have different we have different products that we're offering. One of them is Amini Lite, which is a small window to the Amini platform. So what the problem that we are trying to solve with Amini Lite is we probably to most data scientists or data analysts, most of the time they always want statistical data, right? Maybe to model to create models of their own, to create yield prediction models, to create crop monitoring models and all that. And then you're able to have a platform where you can easily get this data quickly so that you can be able to continue their modeling processes. But the use cases are many, as Jackie mentioned, like crop monitoring, crop water stress monitoring. Most of these are agricultural based. Then you can also use the same data to be able to model a number of models that you want to create. Let's say, as we talked about yield prediction and yield prediction, when you're creating yield prediction model can also be used in so many other use cases around, let's say insurance, let's say farmers financial inclusion. So it actually depends on, as Chadi also threw that question back to you, what would you want to achieve? Because we have what Amini Lite can do, and we have what other products that we have in the Amini platform that can do.
Yeah. So maybe Ria can tell us if she has any other use cases in mind. But I think we have 1 more minute. Does anyone else have any question? So there's a question from Samuel. To which farmer will this tool be useful, considering we also have other crop monitoring tools, like the one from Earth observation? So Corey, would you want to answer this one?
Yes.
And then we will go to Kennedy, who also has a question.
Yes. So what we are doing here, we are trying to ease the process of getting this data from satellite data or from satellite imagery sources. I understand that when you want to get this data, as somebody, yes, we have geospatial experts here. Then we have people who do not have, access to or do not have the geospatial expertise. So you want to create a platform for farmers, or you want to create a way to help farmers be in a position to understand what is happening in their farms. With Amini Lite, you do not have to start from scratch. You do not have to start from scratch. The only thing that you need to do is you just need to supply these polygons or these geopolygons that we're talking about. Then from there, you as the mediator, because you are the mediator, you are the data scientist, you are the software engineer, or whoever you are, can be able to use this data. And as I said earlier, be able to combine this information with the local context and local knowledge to be able to create a solution for the farmer. So as it is at the moment, the way it is when you get this data, you cannot just use it directly and send it to the farmer. No, you have to get this data as simplified as it is. Cloud masking has been done for you, and so many other things has been done for you. Combine this data with local context, local knowledge, and then you're able to create insights or generate insights for farmers. So you can build on top of this so that you're able to use it for your clients or for your farmers or whoever you are creating this for.
Okay, thank you, Corey. I hope that's clear, Samuel. I am going to give the floor to Kennedy to ask his question, and then I will go back to you, Ria. So, Kennedy, um, you can you can. Hi, Kennedy.
Okay, hi, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so my question is to Jackie. The use case that she's presenting is for crop which is specifically is maize, and I just want her maybe to help me understand because the reasoning behind using the threshold as mean, considering maize has different growth stages, and I strongly believe NDVI at the germination stage might not be the same as the one at the NDVI at the tasseling stage. So if she's using mean, and if you even see the curve that she's using, if you take the mean of those NDVI as the threshold, it should be close to zero. So I don't know if there's something I didn't understand, but I just want to understand that. How is she sticking to mean as the threshold for the entire crop germination stages? Thank you. That's all.
Jackie.
Thank you for your question. So maybe if I didn't clarify, so the mean okay. So this really you really need to have like a crop calendar, definitely defining the different season, maybe the germination stage, the growth stage, the flowering stage, and up to the harvesting stage. But in this case, so I decided to use main as really a proxy of the NDVI within the season based on the data that I have for someone without all this crop calendars defined. But as you definitely mentioned, this is part of the context that you need to add into your crop monitoring workflow, and definitely which is different for different crops during when you're building such applications. But in this demo, so I was using it as a proxy based on the data that I have. But definitely when you are building, you also need to have the crop calendar kind of defined for these different crops to be able to do the same. I don't know if Cole have any other insight on the same.
No, I think Jackie, you answered it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kennedy. I hope that's clear, so that we can move forward. Okay. So Ria has asked, can I be able to know the sampling areas on a farm?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Using Amini Lite, you cannot be in a position to understand about the sampling areas in a farm. But we have other suites, we have other products. If you want to do sampling, in a farm, then we have other products that will help you do that.
Yeah. So by other products, Corey means we also offer an enterprise package, which actually includes that feature. So if you would like to know more about the Amini Enterprise, please reach out to us through our website or our community channels, and then we can follow up from there. I hope that that's clear, Ria. So please drop your questions. I think we'll just add 3 more minutes before we wrap up. Kennedy, if you don't have any questions, please you can lower your hand. But then I will go back to Samuel, who is asking, as you develop your monitoring or prediction systems, do you consider different types of crops and environments where they thrive? I'm not sure if I understand the question well, but I think as that's a good question, and I definitely think that we will be able to expand to different crops. But also, like I mentioned, we send out emails and communication even when we add more features and indices. So we'll keep you updated once we do so. I don't know
Maybe,
if Corey, if you have anything to add to that.
yeah, I can add something about that. Is asking about monitoring prediction systems and whether we consider different types of crops and environments where they thrive. Yes, so maybe this is out of the scope of Amini Lite. It's in the
Oh,
scope of the other products that you're talking about, like Amini Enterprise. Yes, we are very considerate and cognizant of the fact that different crops thrive differently in different areas, right? So we have in-house AZ or microclimate, AZ creation procedures. Then from there now we start the process of monitoring and creating models that will help in the monitoring process and will also help in understanding the yields of the different crops that you're talking about. Yeah. So this is more of enterprise. It's a different it's another scope other than mini lights. Thanks.
yeah, yeah. It's about crop monitoring and crop yield prediction based on different crops. Um, like for example, what you consider in analyzing indices. Um, but yeah, I think I hope that's clear. Um, I don't think we have any more questions unless Kennedy um, has another question for us. Otherwise, we can conclude this this webinar. Kennedy, do you have any
No,
questions?
I
Okay,
think that's for the last time. Oh, sorry, sorry.
okay. No worries. All right. Thank you guys for attending this first webinar. It's been really great from my side. I'm really excited because we've been looking forward to organizing our first webinar at Amini and actually get to know you more and get to know your needs as well. As part of what I mentioned, we do have a community on Discord and Slack. So please feel free to join our Discord and Slack channels, and you can send us a message anytime you want, and we'll also be dropping announcements there. There's also a very short survey by the end of the webinar, so please, we would like you to fill it out just so that we can understand um, what you would like us to cover in our next webinar and what we actually missed on this one so that we consider adding it in the next one. So again, thank you so much for attending this webinar and look forward to having you in the next one. Thank you. I am going to end the webinar right now. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.